here. Okay. We are now recording. Go for it, Bill.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome to our second session. And this is on trauma as a fundamental psychological factor shaping individual and collective personal dysfunction in the world. That's a lot to say. I want to acknowledge that some of what I'm going to be saying has been inspired. One of my clients, I don't know, about a month ago or so, maybe 2 months ago, probably 2 months ago, sent me a link to a video by a German consciousness healer named Thomas Hubel, H-U-B-L, who has really been addressing this issue of trauma as racial, national, group shaping of identity and creating difficulty and trouble. And I found it very, very, very interesting. And it really stimulated thinking about trauma for me. And if you were in on the session last week, I was sharing that, and it was about mental health and meditation. And I was sharing that we have a problem in our culture and society and with the profession of psychology and medicine, that basically we don't, whether it's physical health or mental health, we call it physical health or mental health, but the professions that deal with those areas of our lives don't really seem to have a whole lot to say about what mental health actually is or physical health actually is. It's really a compendium of symptoms of mental illness and physical illness and therapies for addressing these illnesses. Yet what we seem to be missing is that without a foundation of basic mental and physical health, then we are very vulnerable to physical and mental illness. My attraction as a psychologist to Buddhism, as I explained last week, has to do with, I really found in Buddhism a psychology, a philosophy of life, a cosmology, but profoundly a psychology that addressed what mental health is. With that, what I was saying is that in our society, in our health system, our health philosophy, we really are only generally dealing with the tip of the iceberg. We're only dealing with a manifestation when it is really laying us low, that we're not really addressing it in its subtler manifestations. This is true for generally what we regard as mental illness, anxiety, depression, difficulties with anger, obsessiveness, all of these symptoms that we call mental illness. Generally, there's like this very high threshold that has to be passed, which is kind of affecting our ability to function before it can be identified and begin to be addressed. But who among us does not have issues with anxiety? Who among us does not have issues with depression? Who among us does not have issues with anger? Who among us does not have issues with obsessiveness of some sort? And for the topic this week, who of us does not have some issue with trauma? And I'm going to take the whole notion of trauma to very subtle levels. And of course, this ties in with a meditation class in that what is meditation? Meditation is the training of human awareness to be able to focus with increasing subtlety into what the true nature of who we are is, what the true nature of life is about. And so I want to turn that eye of awareness a bit today onto this topic of trauma. And as Sally was saying, I think it is particularly relevant because we are in fact in a period of national trauma. Right now, the entire nation is being traumatized for a number of reasons. I think there is political trauma, there is essentially an existential trauma. By the way, any of you who get Rolling Stone, and it's not just, I'm so past what's going on musically in the world. It has nothing to do with the music world that Rolling Stone is usually associated with, but it's one of the best sources of amazing political commentary that there is. And right now there is an amazing story basically saying how America is traumatized, how America is in fact slipping from the position that it held in the world ever since the Second World War as a beacon of stability in the world. And we as citizens, we as residents of this nation are really, I think, feeling this. There's also the issue, all of the issues of staying at home and the concern, all of this is going on, all of this is going on. But what is trauma? And that's what's really important. We have to take it down to this very subtle level, but at a non-subtle level, really what are, like the symptoms of trauma? Anxiety, depression, anger, dissociation, flashbacks into past circumstances. They are events in our lives that basically shake our sense of well-being, control in our life, autonomy, safety. And again, each of us probably has, some events that would fall into what is known as classic trauma. Things that really we feel injured by in some way, and we continue to carry them. And again, as Sally was saying, they can sometimes be these ghosts in our lives that we're going along and feeling pretty good and everything's okay, but then something will come up and it will be a resonant event. Something will happen that resonates this injury, this shame, this anger, this sense of loss of control that remains in our past. What's very important to realize is that beyond those big events that we can conventionally recognize as psychologically traumatizing, it's very important to realize that the entire shaping of our personality, our sense of self in the world, in many ways has been shaped by trauma. Shaped by the anxiety of an infant, of a small child, trying to figure their way in the world and looking to parents and looking to siblings and looking to events, looking to society, looking to culture, getting a little bit older, getting into school, looking to teachers. All of these inputs in the world that are basically telling us what the world is and who we are. Now, Buddhism, as a psychology, focuses a great deal on the notion that we are a multidimensional being. We are a being of pure consciousness, awareness. And we are a being in the world of form, in the world of events, that by the evolutionary status of a human being, what the universe has evolved in a human being is this advanced cerebral cortex, very complex physical mechanism, opposable thumbed hands are able to manipulate and deal with the world, but a brain that abstracts our sense of self out of nature in a way that no other creature experiences. And with that abstraction comes this sense of anxiety. Who am I? What am I worth? What is my place? Now, Buddhism, as I've shared before, to realize what does the word Buddhism actually mean? It means a study of awakening. In a way, what Buddhism is as a psychology, as a philosophy of life, is addressing the issue that human beings essentially live inside of virtual realities. Again, that's what this complex brain creates. To be able to understand what that means, it's very important to realize, even in the course of your lifetime, again, I'm always saying how I appreciate working, being a senior and working with seniors who have all of this life experience. And to realize how in so many ways, the reality that you live within right now, how very different it is from the reality you lived within as a child and the reality that you lived within as a young adult. What I mean by reality is your values, your beliefs, an understanding of what is possible in the world, how we relate to other, all these various things. Again, just pay attention to how you, one person in your own lifetime over the span of 50, 60, 70, 80 years, reality changes. And to realize that's happening in the mind. Now, I wrote a column a few months ago saying, just imagine then how different reality of you, a 21st century American, might be from a 5th century Chinese. Again, this profound, but yet what are we? What is the difference between a 5th century Chinese, and a 21st century American? As an organism, as a being, nothing. But there are vast differences in the understanding of reality that come from all of these influences, conditioning factors, society, culture, family, experiences, all shaping this idea of a person, an idea of a world. And I want to come back to the notion that this is happening to a great extent through a process of trauma, of the anxiety of an infant, the anxiety of a young child, saying, who am I? What is this world? What am I about? Is it okay for me to believe this? Is it okay for me to do that? Who am I? And to have this sense that society, culture, parents, family, all of these factors are coming together in a sense like a sculptor, but probably more like a metal sculptor who is using heat and hammering to be able to bring into shape what it is that they're creating. So all these factors that are coming in and heating up and creating anxiety and kind of going, no, don't do this, don't do it, punishing, sometimes even abusive ways of shaping the child into a particular belief system, into a neurotic, coming back to psychology, person. What do we do? And then there are, those events, some people have terrible, terrible events that we would classically consider trauma and that are shaping who this person is. And again, that anxiety, anger, depression, dissociation, all of these kinds of factors are in their experience. What is Buddhism again? What is meditation? What does this have to do with a meditation class? What is meditation? Meditation is the training, the awakening. Again, coming back to what does the word Buddhism mean? The awakening that who we are is awareness. That capacity to focus consciousness energy. As I shared last week, I actually used the words meditation and mindfulness separately, that meditation is the turning of that eye of awareness, turning that eye of consciousness with its inherent intelligence and compassion. And again, pay attention. Intelligence and compassion does not come from the realm of thought. Clearly, since we have had so many really stupid and so many non-compassionate thoughts in our lives, it's coming from somewhere deeper. It is that place where we connect with the universe itself in the energy of consciousness. And meditation is the training, the awakening that who we are is this consciousness that we can then, in meditation, turn into the environment of the mind, to understand the mind, to be able to shape the mind. in many ways to be able to heal the mind. Mindfulness is the turning of that lamp of awareness out into the world, to be able to, with ever increasing subtlety and discernment, be able to see the world as it is, and to be able to see deeply enough into the world to begin to really experience the miracle of it all. So with trauma, here we are. How many of you would say, coming back to the issue of we are living in traumatic times, if we're saying we're living in traumatic times, essentially we're saying we're living in insane times. Are we not? For what would sanity be? And this comes back into Buddhism that teaches basically what's called Dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, Dharma. Dharma is the way of the universe, the way of nature, the way of truth, the way things actually are in nature, harmony, balance. A very important way of looking at what mental illness could be considered to be is disharmony, imbalance. And very importantly, delusional, D-E. Kind of illusional, I-L-U as well, but delusional, meaning that we are creating in our own minds ideas about who we are, what the world is about, the source of which society, culture, parents, teachers, media, all of these factors that are going shaping what I will call an ego shell, a shell of a person that takes up the space of consciousness for us typically. We could say that is what is being unconscious. Within Buddhist terms, that's what would be called being unconscious, unawake. That we're just playing out this program, this virtual reality of thoughts and images in our mind, mistaking it for reality. Meditation is about being able to turn that light of awareness onto the mind to be able to experience. A very important aspect of trauma, of course, includes phobia, because that flight, fight, fear response has been triggered so heavily. Exactly that, anxiety attacks, phobic reactions to situation, quite typical with people, again, with classic psychologically significant trauma. But to realize that all of us at much subtler levels are also projecting fears, misshapen understandings of what is happening, who we are, what the world is about. To be able to turn the light of awareness into the field of mind. And awareness is not anxious. Awareness is not depressed. Awareness is not angry. Awareness is clarity of intelligent insight. To be able to shine that light on the mind, to quiet the mind, because the mind holding together this ego shell is all of this commotion of thoughts and emotions and images, creating an opaque screen through which we receive the world and we project our inner world. And with meditation, we shine that light of awareness on this and we calm it down and we soothe it down and we begin to slow it down. We begin to be able to penetrate it and see through it. We don't have to understand it. This is the beautiful thing about meditation, mindfulness, awareness. This is not an analytical process. It is simply a process of seeing and releasing. To be able to look in, as with any phobia, how do we deal with a phobia? We realize here I am having this reaction to something out there in the world. And so to work with a phobia is to calm down that reactivity. How? Oftentimes through conscious breathing. Someone who's not even aware of anything that meditation does, it's part of common culture. Somebody's very upset, very frightened. Well, what's the first thing most people would say to them? It's okay, breathe, 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 breathe. It's okay, breathe, breathe. And what they're actually doing then is activating the sympathetic nervous system to bring some calming down. This is why breath awareness is a very fine object of meditation. To calm the internal world, to be able to come out of the dissociation of, no, I can't look at that, or I'm not, or if I look, it's not what I'm not actually seeing what it is. I'm projecting my fear upon it. To be able to calm that down, and then to be able to look at the object of the phobia and to experience that it actually isn't threatening. And to go through a process of repeated experience of that. This is how you would therapeutically address phobia. Again, I want to address the fact, who here does not struggle to some degree with anxiety? And what is anxiety but a phobia? The phobia that I somehow am insufficient to be able to just show up in the moment as the moment unfolds, and I will be okay, and I will be able to handle it. Our anxiety is that we won't be able to do that. And of course, what is important, again, as I so often say, it's nice to be working with folks who have a few years behind them, to realize how many times we have, in the shaping of who we are now, faced those fears and overcome those fears. And to realize, if it is ever possible, it is always possible. And so, this process, whatever trauma any person is carrying, whether it's of a dimension that could be clinically significant, or it is this lesser trauma. I'm coming from the tradition of Zen Buddhism, and it is very typical in Zen Buddhism for a teacher to exhort to a student, show me your original face. This is basically a Zen koan, one of those riddles that we're supposed to try to penetrate, not intellectually, because it really cannot truly be penetrated intellectually, but intuitively, penetrated at the level of consciousness itself, to realize. And of course, the answer to that question is original face, that which exists before the conditioning, before mother, father, society, culture, personal experience, pounding into shape a neurotic, meaning an anxious personality. This is what Buddhist meditation is about. It is about liberation from that anxious personality. So just as if someone was in the midst of a traumatic event, you might come along and say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Breathe, relax, it's okay, just breathe, breathe. It's safe, I promise you, it's safe. Okay, 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 okay. It's so very important to realize that we have the opportunity to do that for ourselves. And this is what meditation can do for us. Let me stop right now, right in the middle. And what I want to do is guide you through a 10 breath meditation. And so, as I so often do when I ask people to come into meditation, I ask you to awaken your inner Buddha. As I said, you've all seen pictures of a Buddha meditating, that perfect balance, that poise, that peacefulness, yet profound alertness, a perfect alignment with a sense of earth beneath us and heavens, cosmos above us. That is, awakening that sense of consciousness emerging into the world. That is Buddha. And to bring that sense this is who we are fundamentally into our meditation. So sit as Buddhas. Close your eyes. I want to point out that as you close your eyes, you are not extinguishing the faculty of vision. You're only keeping it from being captured by the immediate environment. In a sense, with your eyes closed, vision is looking into infinity, into eternity. And of course, that is our true home. And bring awareness into your breathing. Just feel the rhythm of your breathing. The inhalation, the exhalation. As we breathe, I would like you to give particular attention to the exhalation. Feel the exquisiteness of the release that comes naturally with exhalation of tension of body and mind, a letting go. And at the limit of the exhalation, just linger for a moment before the inhalation naturally comes. And now I'd like you to simply count out 10 cycles of in-breath and out-breath in the manner I have described. And after the 10th cycle, to gently open your eyes and be present in the here and now. Just being present in the here and now. With the sights that are around you, the sounds that are around you. Perhaps you are experiencing just a taste of what the Zen teacher calls forth as original face. That the person you may typically be more often that is experiencing anxiety or caught up in anticipations and maybe even regrets out of the past or feeling inadequate to meet the challenge of the present moment, right now, that's not who you are. Right now, you are calm, present, alert, relaxed. We're living in a time of trauma because we live in a society that is lost its balance, is in conflict within itself, is in conflict with nature. We as a society must be able to find our way back. And again, to realize there has been several thousand years of history of trauma. What does that mean? Of conflict, of the imposition of ideas that place us in conflict with nature and with each other, that have all been shaping this virtual reality called a society. And it is dysfunctional and it is not working. How can that be addressed? It can only be addressed by individuals who have liberated themselves from this dysfunctional identity of a society, who are awakened consciousness, who have worked with their own issues of traumatization, faced their own phobias, faced their own anger, faced their own despondency with the healing energy of consciousness. And so too, the healing energy of consciousness must be brought into our society and into the world society, human society, to reestablish balance. Realize how each of us has been shaped by trauma. Again, some of us, some big traumas. Most of us, mini traumas. The places where shame hides within us, places where anger hides within us, places that evoke anxiety within us, places that discourage us about who we are and what our place in life is about. This is what Buddhism refers to as dukkha, suffering. How we experience life in an unsatisfactory and disconnected way. We must bring ourselves back into connection with life as it is. Show me your original face. Show me, discover for yourself, using meditation, the discovery of who you are prior to anxiety, depression, anger, despondency. And then, as within the Buddhist tradition, the tradition of the Bodhisattva, this is not an opportunity for us to opt out of society, but it is our responsibility to bring that sense of balance, of sanity, of compassion, of wisdom into society, to reshape it in ways that are not traumatic for generations to come. That's, I guess, the time that we have for this. Again, these Zoom meetings really zoom through topics. So I want to be able to have Sally open it, that if anyone has a question.
Well, we have less than a minute at this point. So I have unmuted people, but I expect we will be cut off fairly suddenly. Is there anything that anyone would like to put into
this conversation? Yes.
Of the conversation? And if not, if you want to email me, we can respond in that respect as well. But before we end, I do want to thank Bill for another wonderful program, and especially really addressing something which is so relevant to all of us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there something anybody would like to really ask? Anybody?
Yeah, we're here.
Go ahead.
Bob, you wanted to ask something?
No, I was just
Wait,
waiting.
saying hi.
You said anybody. I wanted to let you know. I was still here.
Okay. Yes, we're still here. That's the whole point. We're still here.